The question is, when will Mueller impeach Trump? Now, Robert Mueller is the special counsel that's investigating the Trump administration's connection pre-election, so when they were the Trump campaign, to Russia. We found some dubious dealings. There's obviously some things going on. I believe 2 people have already been indicted, and we're going to find out later, I guess, what kind of prison sentences they're going to get. So yeah, they've already pled down. I believe there's been 2 plea bargains with the special counsel. So really good question. Now I'm not so sure if he's going to be impeached because the impeachment process is a little bit laborious. I mean, it's not laborious, but you have to understand it's not as simple as if he's found guilty of having connections with Russia, illegal connections with Russia, then he's going to be removed from office. Now, interesting to note that I believe yesterday his lawyers, I think in the end, the White House said that he's not going to be meeting Mueller because Mueller has requested such a meeting to question the president under oath. Now, probably the advice to Trump is the right one. I mean, for his sake, because they know that Donald Trump is a little bit, so to speak, economical with the truth. He might say something, backtrack, change it, and if that's under oath, that's perjury. So even if he doesn't have any connections with Russia, if he perjured himself, it really makes it bad and much easier to impeach him. Now, how does impeachment work? Because it's not as simple as if he's found guilty of something, he's removed from office. How it works is the majority of the House has to vote for an impeachment. And then the trial because there is a kind of a trial that happens, takes place on the Senate. So I guess the founding fathers wanted to make sure that the responsibility is shared between the people and the states, bearing in mind that the Senate was much more representative of the states. How it originally was conceived was really the representation for the states, and the House was for the people. So they wanted the people to have the say about whether he's going to be, whether they can proceed with an impeachment trial, which occurs in the Senate. So important to note that this year is an election year. November, we have a midterm election. Now, typically what happens is that the president's team, his party, takes a hit. Now, considering that this president has the lowest approval ratings, I believe, ever recorded, especially after only 1 year in office, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens in November. They do have a small majority in the House and the Senate also, so they're both controlled by the Republicans. Now, which means basically before November, it makes it highly, highly unlikely that the Republican majority is going to vote to go ahead with impeachment and for that to take place on the Senate and an eventual impeachment trial in the Senate, which again, after that, you to be removed from office is another thing completely. It's a kind of a further step. It's not as just kind of a combo deal where everything is done at the same time. The removal from office is kind of drastic, and I don't believe any president has ever been removed from office. I think Nixon came the closest, but Nixon resigned before it went that far. So yeah, no president's ever been removed from office. So I'm not so sure how that whether that would ever happen. But having said that, it's important to know that because if let's say Donald Trump is found guilty, or at the very least, I don't think perjury is actually going to be that major problem for a lot of, to be honest, with a lot of his base, and maybe a lot of swing voters too. Lying under oath, yeah, it's pretty bad, but we know a lot of people who do it. Now, the connection with Russia, though, if he is caught having some kind of insidious connection with Russia before the election and even post the election, then I think it's going to be very hard for House representatives who are voted in every 2 years as well as 1/3 of the senators who are voted in every 2 years because they have a 6-year term. Now, there is going to be very hard on these people to kind of go to their go to their voters and say that they are good, decent, honest people when if they don't vote for impeachment, as well as a trial to take place in the Senate, because they're going to say, well, obviously our president has been found guilty of connection with Russia, and if they're believed, if the guilty verdict is believed, then it's going to look really bad on a bunch of senators and representatives that don't want to impeach their president because he's on their team. So if that's the case, and they're worried about kind of blowback from the voters, it's highly likely that they will go ahead with such, because if he's toxic, if approval ratings are the way they are, and if people see that this ship's going down, there's no loyalty in politics, especially U.S. politics. They will bail as soon as they can, pretty much, and then we could have him removed from office. Although, if with a large enough majority in the House and in the Senate, as President Obama had during the last 6 years of his administration, he's pretty much like a sitting duck. He can't do anything. Lame duck, as they call it in politics, essentially, where the Congress has big enough majority, the opposing party has a big enough majority to kind of block any legislation that Trump proposes or that Republicans propose. And in fact, if Donald Trump tries to veto any bills, because if the president doesn't sign a bill, it doesn't go into law. And if he vetoes, if it comes back to the House and Senate and 2/3 of Congress votes to override the veto, we didn't need the president's approval. His signing wasn't necessary. So if he's severely weakened in the November elections, I don't think people will care too much about removing him from office. But it's highly, highly likely that in 2020 he wouldn't get reelected. All right, so my name's Nick Knightsbridge. If you want for me to answer any questions, please post them, and I shall do so spontaneously.